Hi and welcome back. And in this video, I'm going to make you an API expert. If you've never worked with APIs, or if you are even someone who has just got started and found a lot of issues, this is the last video that you need to watch. We are going to talk everything about APIs. I'm going to explain you how they work, how to build them and utilize them in your applications, and finally also how to integrate in Voiceflow. If you're looking for only one of these steps, you can go and check out the timestamps below in the description. But if you watch this video from start till the end, this will be the last video that you need to become an API expert. You will never need to know anything apart from this. Number one, what is an API, right? And I'm going to make this super simple for you to understand. Imagine you are entering a coffee shop. You have gone into a coffee shop and you are asking for a coffee. Someone goes to the kitchen, gets you a coffee back to the table. You ask for it, someone makes the coffee, you get the coffee back. The same way an API also works. You ask for something, it gets you something back from some other place. So that's a server. And finally, it sends you that back to your table. So in that place, that could be your application or something else. Now, that is a super simple example, right? So I'm going to make you understand in a bit more technical way. Very simply, look at this. There are three things here. A client, which is any application that you're using. So Voiceflow or your mobile app or any application in the world uses APIs. That's the left-hand side. That person sitting there is you sitting on your coffee table. Second step is the person who's going to ask you to ask for your order, which is what we call the API. API is nothing, just is asking for instructions on what do you want it to do. Let's say you're given it an instruction that I want some data from my server. While that API just simply goes to that server, asks for the data, and gets you that back on your application. That could be a mobile application, your Voiceflow chatbot, anything else. Okay. This is how the whole functionality works. Very simply, it gets you some data based on what you ask for, or it sends some data, XYZ. It's completely based on what you requested for. So APIs are nothing but just a way to interact between this kitchen and you. You just have a person who is serving you this stuff, or in this case, APIs. This is an uber simple example. APIs are just the middlemen who help you get things done. Okay. Now, once you understand the logic of APIs, that they're just bringing things back, or even you can ask something to be sent back to the kitchen, right? So one is obviously you get an order of coffee, or the second thing is, okay, maybe you ordered for something, or you want to send some ingredient back to the cafe. Like you want to say, I have bought my own coffee beans. Can you make coffee out of this? Right? So you bring your coffee beans, you take those coffee beans and tell them, make coffee from these beans. The person will take that back to the kitchen. It will make those coffee beans and bring you a coffee made out of those coffee beans, right? So again, you can send data also. You don't need to always just get whatever is coming. You can also send data. So both these processes are possible. You can get a coffee. You can also send your coffee beans to get a coffee differently. Now, how do you send data, right? Now, very simply, sending and getting data is done in a format called JSON. Now, you will hear this word a ton of times. So I want to simplify this. JSON is nothing other than a way to write data. That's it. And I'm going to show you examples of that, right? But it's very simply the way you structure data. For example, email is always written at akshat@gmail.com, right? That's always going to be the email ID format. The same way we have a structure of writing this. That's it. That's what JSON is. The full form is JavaScript Object Notation. Most of the APIs use that. There are other formats, but for our examples, we are going to use JSON format. Okay. That's the explanation part. Now, let's move on to how to implement this. And I'm going to show you a super uber simple example. Okay, let's look at this table. This is a very simple table which captures leads from a website. There are three things that we are asking for: the name of the person, the email of the person, and the phone number of the person. That's it. But now, if I want this data, I'm going to ask them to either fill a form or come to my Voiceflow chatbot or come to something else and fill their data. Now, I want all the data wherever I'm getting it from a form, from there. I want it in the same table so that I can go and connect with these people. The way to do that is through APIs, right? But this is how an API looks like. Now, again, don't get scared. Don't get like, I don't understand this, but let me just move myself. But this is pretty much how an API example looks like, right? Now, again, there are a lot of things happening, right? But what you need to understand are three parts to this. Number one is that always select curl commands are just the way that you can run this even in your browser. You can even send this from the browser. Now, if you click JavaScript or Python, you can find other options. Select the curl option. You will have that in 99% of the cases existing in the documentation. Every company that you're using an API with has documentation. So this is the API documentation that we're going to use. Now, we are not going to break our head and understand what all of this means. I'm going to make it more simpler. Very simply, you just copy this. Okay, Control C. That's it. We are going to do the next step, and you're going to come to something like this. Now, this is nothing but an amazing company called Postman. They help you literally. Their whole job is making APIs simple for across the world. They're the best in the world, right? Very simply, you come here, and whatever we copy, we are just going to paste this here. Okay, that's it. Now, if you see, we copied a ton of stuff, right? We copied a ton of stuff, but we're not pasting all the stuff. We are pasting just URL, right? But that's not what actually happens. Once you paste it, you see this body tab has got some information. The headers also would have got some information. Let me open a new request. Now, this body tag has nothing. The parameters, the authorization, the headers, there is nothing. This is how blank request looks like. But when I paste it, and that's the biggest hack, whenever you get a curl command, just copy and paste it into Postman. It's free of cost. So you can come here and you see all this data. And you can see there's something selected raw, right? And JSON. That's what we talked about, right? Raw and JSON. Now, again, there are other options which you can go ahead and explore on your own time. But very simply, we're just going to look at raw JSON, which is 99% of APIs in the world. Look at the body. Very simply, I have a Airtable, which is like this, right? I have this Airtable, which has name, email, and phone number, right? In the same format, I have name, email, and phone number here. So that means whenever I have to trigger an API, I can just use this particular thing. Okay. Now, how do we do this? Very simply, I don't need to input 2 times. I just need one set of records. Okay. I don't want to send multiple. I just want to input once the name, email, and the phone number. So what I can do is, you see this here is a small arrow that you can see. This small arrow helps you navigate the JSON. If you want to make it more simpler, come to this jasoncrack.com/editor. This is an amazing website. I'll link all of these below, don't worry. Just take this, copy and paste, right? And here you can see how this JSON looks in a visual format. You have the records, and then you have the left-hand side. One record is this, and second record is this. Now, I just want to use one of them, right? So what I can do is, I can come here. Again, you see this arrow. This arrow is like conventionally available literally across the world. I can come here and remove this comma. That's it. Once I do that, you have only one record, and that's what we want to enter. But why do you think this records thing exists? You see, there is a square bracket here, right? A square bracket instead of a curly braces. Now, there is a reason behind that. This means an array. We want to send multiple records. If you see, what we copied and pasted were multiple records. Let me just bring that and paste all of this, right? You can see these are multiple records, right? So one record has 2 fields, right? 2 parts of the field, test, and then Akshat data. I am just looking at sending once, right? I'm just trying to send this once. That's it. I just want to send this data once. But what if I want to send multiple times, right? In the same request, I want to send multiple data. Then I will use something. Again, I'll just copy and paste this piece multiple times. So I'll go comma, and then again click this, and you have more options, right? And I can change the values here. So this can be test, right? And same way I can add. Let's say I want to add a phone number also. We're just going to put double quotes, phone number, colon, and whatever the number is. All of this is going to be in double quotes. And again, that's the way the syntax is written. It's not something I've created. This is how the world is using JSON. You have double quotes. One is the key, other is the value. There is one name, there's value, email, the value, phone number, the value. That's it. Okay. Now, you can send like this, but let's say if you just want to send one record, that means you just want to send one thing. You're just going to get rid of all of this. Okay. So we're going to get rid of all of this. And we can get it in simple format. You don't have to figure out where the curly braces are and everything. Just close and open this, small arrows, take this, and bye-bye. That's it. And you're going to always get a comma, remove that comma, right? But this is still a array, right? But if I'm only sending one record, I don't need this technically. So what I can do is, again, if you see, you can remove this line and we put in this, and it will cause some errors. Give it a second. And here, that's it, right? Now, let me just paste it again. You have just one field with all the details. That's what we are going to use. We're just going to enter one record. But you now understand how the object notation works, how JSON works, and how to enter multiple fields. Okay. So now you understand how this works and what we need to do. Now, we are going to use this one field to enter data, right? That's what a logic is. And now you know how to enter multiple fields and how to also enter just a single record. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to come back here and paste it. That's it. There's not going to be any error. This is the way we are going to send the data. But now there are two more things that you need to keep in mind. The first one is the content type. The content type is something that you're going to see everywhere, pretty similar, okay? It's application slash JSON, right? Now, application slash JSON is the format that we are going to send the data in. Now, this is created by default in every API. You might find something else. Most of them will have a JSON option. So for this, you just need to always make sure that this is application slash JSON or based on what your requirement is. Now, main part of authorization, and you have your secret API token. Now, to understand this authorization part, you need to go back to the Airtable documentation. Now, it's going to explain us here, but I'm just going to simply explain you what this means. Now, you are seeing another option here in the authorization part, which is your secret API token. You technically understand that an API token is secret that I can't reveal to people, because then you can access the database that I have, okay? To make it more simpler to understand what authentication means, let me just come back here, okay? So very simply, API has three parts. Where will you send the request? Now, that's the URL. How will I know that this person who is sending the request is a trusted person? How do I know this person is not trying to delete all the data? That's where this authorization parts come in. And the final part that I already showed you, what we want to send to this place. So you have a basket, which is data. What data you want to send to this is already part of body, right? Now, this authorization part sometimes might also just come up as in some APIs under API key, and you might have to just enter a value here, okay? And I'm going to show you an example of this also. But very simply, don't get ever like, what this API key means and what authorization means. It's very simply just a way to authenticate that who you are is the right person. You are not some random person who's just trying to attack the database or delete all my records. You have this way to enter bearer, and here you have to enter a secret token. Now, you always have to go to the platform wherever you are using to get these tokens. Okay, now if you can see this token, this is what I should be showing you. Now, to get the authorization token, you need to go to the platform that you're using. So I'm using Airtable. Airtable has this platform where I can go and search for the personal access token and create a new one. I'm going to show you how to create a new one. Very simply, you're going to add test token, and then you can add a scope, what you want to select. So you might want to give write access or read access. Now, again, this is for Airtable. Other places might have an API key. If you have that, you can do all read, write, update, delete, all operations, okay? So again, you can go ahead and create this, and once you do that, you have to select which base. So we are just going to use Better with AI. That's the base that I have. And then very simply create token. Now it's going to show you this token. I'm not going to show this to you. I'm going to cover this because again, you should not share your tokens ever. But also if you see, they will never show this token again. It's a request that make sure that when you're copying and pasting, you store it in a safe place. If you don't and you forget it, you can come back and create a new token. The only thing is you will have to update your token everywhere else also. Okay, so perfect. We are just going to click done. We have this token and we're going to use it. Right now, coming back to this, I can enter a token here, but for just to show you, it will just be something like this. Okay, there will be no curly braces, there will be no double quotes also. There will just be a string that will allow me to access this data. Now, to show you, let me copy paste this so that I can show you how this runs. Now, I've already set up the token, right? I can also show you this because I have set it as a variable. Now, I've already set up the token. I've set it up as a variable. So you can see it's test token. You can set up variables in Postman very simply. You would just come here and put in like this. And then if you want to select this, you will have the option to set as variable. That's it. Okay, you can do that. So we're just going to get rid of this. There's no need. We have this and we're going to enter our data. So I'm just going to add YouTube action, test@test.com. This is just what I've edited. And we're just going to click on this button called send. And once you send this, we should get some data here. Okay, but we should also see this data in our database, right? So let's come back to the database. And if I should, you have all the data that I sent from the API in the database. That's how an API does what we call a post request, right? If you see here, there is a thing called get, post, put, batch, delete, head options, right? Now, delete is pretty simple to understand. Post is also very simple. We are just sending something. So posting something to the database, right? And once you post something, you get something as a response that this record has been created. That means you're good to go, right? In case the record did not get created, we should get some error, right? So let me show you how that error will look like, right? So you remove this and then click on send, right? And then you get authentication required. That means you are sending me some data, but I don't know who you are. So you need to give me some authentication, right? So just to show you that results are different, you see this new record getting created. How technically how this whole API thing works, right? Now, post is sending data, get is getting the data, right? Now, there is another option which is getting the data. Post means sending, as I said, posting something, and getting is very simply getting the data from someplace. Now, I'm going to show you how to use this example in Voiceflow and in the simplest format possible. Okay, so let me show this to you in Voiceflow. Now, this is how the example looks like, right? Very simply, I am asking someone to input their details, that is their name, their email, and their phone number. Now, if you see, I am storing all their data in the variable. Then just click here and click create new variable, right? And we'll be able to create a new variable. Very simple conversation, right? But the main thing that I have to show you is how to set this up, how to set this whole process up. So let's get started. We're going to take a block. We're going to call it API block. You click on dev here on the left, and then you just bring in a API block. Okay. Now, if you see here, I don't want to select get. Get is for getting the data. I want to send something to the database, right? So let me move myself, and then very simply, I click post. Now, what is the first thing that you need to input here? The first thing that you need to input is a URL, right? So we are just going to simply come here. This is the URL. You're going to copy this and you're going to paste this. Why am I showing you like that? Because I don't want to understand this. Now, why am I copying and pasting data? Because I don't want to show you this. I don't want to break my head over understanding what does this mean? What does that mean? I just want to do a copy paste job. So if you're good at copying and pasting this into Postman, you can technically just come back and copy and paste stuff here. Okay. Now we need headers, right? We can come back here, headers. We just have to copy this, click on headers plus enter this authorization, copy again this. Again, we will probably have to copy something else. I'll show you how that works. We enter this, but that's it, right? We do it one more time because we have two headers. If you want to remove one, you can remove one, but very simply, you can do plus and minus from here. Okay, so let's come back, copy content type, right? Paste it, add a header, paste this content type, copy this application JSON, paste this here, and that's it, right? You have copied all the headers that are required, right? So you don't never need to get stressed about what to enter in headers, what to enter in parameters, what to enter in body. Everything is already here. If there was some parameter, we would see here. If there is some anything else, we'll see here. So next we come to is simply body, right? You don't have any parameters. You just come here, click plus on body. Now you have multiple options, right? You have form data, URL, raw. Best thing is we already know. We just want to enter a raw format, right? Click on raw and again come back here and paste it. That's it. We are just going to paste this data, right? Now, if you have done all these steps, the next step is going to be super easy. It's going to be super, super easy. Very simply, if you see, I've captured all of this data in variables, and you can see the variables name, username, you have user email and user phone number. Now, the way it works in Voiceflow is that you have to enter a variable. Okay. Very simply, you have to do this and you go ahead and enter. You see, you can see all the variables names coming up, right? So you can go ahead and enter user name and press this. That's it. And you have to do that for each of the paths. So I'm going to do this in front of you very simply. User email, right? If you see, it does not show me the responses because Voiceflow is probably working on that. But you just know your variables and you can just come here and again enter this user phone. That's it. And that's it. There's no phone number. I've just kept it user phone here. So it's going to be the same variable here. Now, we're not going to just go ahead and start running the flow. Here is an option to test the request. But there is still one step left. You see this bearer token, right? And I need to enter an API. I can enter that by doing one thing. Press Control and you can enter an API. We are very simply going to write test API and click on plus because I want to enter the API key that I got from Airtable. I'm going to come here and just enter it as default value. Now, again, I've already done that. That's why my variable name is Airtable API. But I'm just going to show you that you can just enter anything that you want in the default value and it will store it in the same format. Why should you use variables instead of direct input is because if you're sending this to your clients, if you're sending this to someone else, or you need to change the API key and you're doing multiple operations, you can directly go and change the variable instead of changing it everywhere. Okay, so just enter this data, right? And you can do that. If I click on send, it will ask me to enter all of this data, right? So what we're going to do is we are going to run a very simple test. We're going to start from here, right? And click one by one to input data. So let's get started from there. Okay, so I need Akshat, and I'm going to enter the user email as a@testyoutube.com. Again, there's no validation here. We are just entering random data. I can enter a 0 also, and it will still send, right? And if it works, it should technically API call successfully triggered, right? Now, to test it, we should be able to see this data available here and it's visible. That's how you go ahead and test your APIs. Okay, very simply remember that. Now, that's the best way to do it because you can just do all of this. But let's say you want to store the response that you get. Now, what is the response? You see, you got this data back, right? You see this data on the below, this data that you got back. Let's say you want to store this data somewhere, right? So what you can come here is click on capture response, right? And enter a key. Again, very simply, if you want to get some data from this response, you have to enter what you are fetching for. So let me copy paste this here in a single place. Don't paste this. I'm just showing you to show you on the same screen. So let's say you want this ID of the field, right? So what you're going to come is, let's say if you enter ID, it's not going to work, right? You're going to need to enter something like response.id. Okay. That's when it will start working and giving you the response of the data back, right? And we can store it in a variable. So I'm just going to store it in a variable called, I'm just going to create new one, test response, right? And I'm going to store it and create that variable, right? And again, we're going to go ahead and test this together. Okay, so before testing, ensure that you remove everything. This should exactly look like this. Let me move myself to the top. And then we're just going to enter again random data. So let's just use random, right? And R2. Again, there's no validation, so you can enter whatever you want, right? Random, and just do that. If that call is successfully triggered, we should see an ID getting generated, right? Now, that's it. You have an ID. But the best thing is with this ID, you can actually send a response to the user. Very simply, you might want to show something. Someone has created a support ticket in your chatbot. You can tell them, okay, from exactly 24 hours, we will respond to you. Or you might want to say, yes, your request is submitted, and we're going to tell you that, right? Because we don't want to show just like an ID to them. You can run an if and else condition, do a couple of things with it based on your own requirements, okay? So that's how it works, right? But now we have step 2, which is a more simpler API, right? So I'm going to show you directly in Voiceflow how that works, right? It's very simple on getting a weather request about a city. To show you an example in Voiceflow now, how to get data, we're going to use a very simple API. It's called the weather API. It's hosted on a website called rapidapi.com. Now, if you can see all the options that are available to me. I'm just going to get the real-time weather. We are just simply going to see this is already in curl. You can select multiple options. We like curl, we love curl. Click on this, copy this, come back to our beloved Postman, right? Come here, again, just paste this data. Again, simply just copy and paste data. It's the simplest format to always do. Now, this is the coordinates of how the response is. I'll show you how to do it in city name. But then again, you see the headers. Again, you can get a key, right? I'll show you how that's hosted. But very simply, you don't need to do anything. You can just come here, headers and the parameter. Now, here is something new, right? We get a parameter. Now, parameter, if you see, Q is what we're querying for, right? So Q is the parameter. Sometimes the city name can be the parameter. Sometimes anything can be a parameter based on how that API is defined. That is defined by the people's APIs that you're using. You don't need to worry about that. But given this parameters Q, we'll come back to our voice flow and show you how that looks there. So we come here. First, you see, we have selected response. Okay. We have a response, right? Then you have the X Rapid API key. Again, as you can see in the headers, this is already available. X Rapid API host. Again, same format. We have copied and pasted that here. Nothing else. We are not going to break our head. We have just have the same thing. Okay. Now in parameters, you see, I have this Q is equal to city name, right? So what we're going to do is Q, take the city name, Control X, paste this here, cut, copy, paste. That's it. Parameter Q city name. That's it. So whenever you are writing something like this, very simply, just what we have done is copied this and pasted it here. City name is again, I'm using a variable. Already told you that how we use this. Then I'm capturing all this data in response. Now, why I'm not picking a particular ID, I'll show you that on why that matters. Okay, so let's test this very simply. I'm just going to give it an option. Mumbai, right? Mumbai is a city in India, if you don't know. Very simply, and we're going to get a weather report for this, right? Again, you've got the weather report. So 31 degrees Celsius, 87 degrees Fahrenheit, and all of this is generated. Now, how did this happen? It's very simply when I'm collecting the response, right? I'm collecting the response in a variable called weather data JSON. Then I'm going and doing something here. this line is super important. It took me like really just a horrible amount of time to figure out. Okay. So whether data.json, the JSON.stringify. Why are we stringifying? Because if you don't do that, it just sends a word called object. Because the way Voiceflow platform works, it's not parsing the JSON. It does not take the JSON and convert it into a text format that you and I can read, and similarly computer can read. So we do this very simple, this one line, and just enter the variable again. We initialize the same variable. And then I have very simply written here, respond with the weather report using this data present in this variable. And that's how you get data. Setting up this was super easy. You just select the headers, you select the parameters, and you capture the response, parse the response finally, and then show that to the users as required. Again, this is exactly what you need to do to run any kind of API. If you want to add data, if you want to get data, you literally need to just copy the API, paste it into Postman, and from there, you're technically good to go. But that's technically how easy it is to use APIs. But if you have any doubts, please put that down in the comment section. I will love to answer them, right? And I hope you understood everything. But this is technically everything that you need to know to work with APIs, to troubleshoot them, to become an expert in API. That's it. This was the last tutorial that you should need. But if you have any more, please let me know and I'll create more. But till then, please like and subscribe the channel. It matters a lot if you've seen the air. I hope you got a lot of value. So please hit that like button. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.